Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Welcome back to the channel where we talk about economics and crypto and lots of other fun things. In today's video, I want to start a new series, and this is inspired by something. I'm going to give some props here to a couple channels that I follow by the same person. Channel number one would be The Modern Investor, 250,000 subscribers, 3.2K videos. Channel number two would be Money Rules dash Investing Tips. Like I said, same person who runs both of these channels. On his Modern Investor channel every day, 7 days a week, he does a recap of news reports related to crypto and gives his thoughts on that. I've tried something like that in the past, and here's my thoughts. It's generally just articles suck. They're just not really interesting to me. But I've always wanted to do something like that. So I've thought, just to get a thought kind of hit me the other day. And where do I get most of my alpha? It's on X. And there's a lot of good stuff, a lot of stuff that I don't think makes quite the rounds of crypto Twitter from accounts that I follow or just things that I see, relevant things. And so I think that this can be helpful over the days, weeks, months, and hopefully years. And so this is a new series titled The Best of X on any given day, hoping to be very regular with this. So with all that being said, follow both of these accounts, by the way. Let's go ahead and dive on in. Oh no, negative news for the first time since 2022. Bitcoin, SPX, NASDAQ, and NVIDIA have a death cross around the same time. Get above and hold the 200-day SMA, which is very much what I'm paying attention to. Black line in these images, and the bull run continues. Let's zoom in a little bit on this. And so Bitcoin is already under its 200-day simple moving average, but we have the 50-day moving average, the green line, about to cross over. Historically, it has a very scary sounding name. Oh no, the death cross. But what typically happens is about 50% of the time that's pretty close to a local bottom. We'll see what happens this time around with the with the NASDAQ and the S&P. It's not quite like that. You can see in 2022, the way that shape played itself out is that it took several months. It took pretty much the entirety of 2022 for this death cross to play itself out. And so we have an interesting thing coming up here where I am expecting the NASDAQ and the S&P to not hit new all-time highs, and NVIDIA at least in 2025, but we need maybe a year, maybe the rest of 2025 at least, for it to play itself out. How's Bitcoin going to react? I could very easily see a scenario where Bitcoin gets back above its 200-day moving average, and we'll see if it were to hit a new all-time high, but back above its 200-day moving average, but then the S&P and NASDAQ and NVIDIA do not do that. So just something to keep on your radar. Last time it happened was 2022. Last time that happened, we entered a recession that the powers that be decided not to call a recession. And so will the same thing happen again this time around? I think, at least in the stock market, we have a downtrend ahead of us. But okay, some perspective with the death crosses. This is from Heisenberg, Mr. Derivatives. In the last 9.5 years, we have had 3 death crosses on the SPX at the end of 2018, the COVID crash, and the 2022 beginning of the bear market. 2 of those 3 death crosses led to further declines. The COVID crash, one pretty much marked the bottom, and we're about to experience a death cross in the coming days. No chance of avoiding it. Which type of reaction will we get this go round? So back to these charts. Wouldn't it be great if we had a COVID crash type scenario? And you could make a compelling argument, especially looking at the VIX. You look at the VIX, you see how much it spiked in recent days. I've covered that in other videos, and maybe a move back down in the VIX could lead to a V-shaped recovery in Bitcoin, in the NASDAQ, and in the SPX. Otherwise, similar scenarios would be 2018, end of 2018, and the beginning of the 2022 bear market, where, again, it took some time to play itself out. So we will see where we go from there. Other news, popular news. You might have heard of this OM Mantra DAO collapse. My goodness. lost $6 billion in valuation. If you didn't know anything about OM, I rarely ever talked about it on my channel. It was fascinating. It went under the radar, but this was in 2023, 2024, and into 2025, the biggest winner. I mean, what you would see consistently with Mantra DAO was that you would see a bunch of meme coins. Who are the biggest winners of this run? Meme coins, but then number one would be OM. I mean, pretty much as far as measurables in terms of like measuring from millions of dollars in market cap to billions of dollars, this is the biggest winner. And yet what we saw with Mantra DAO yesterday was that it just got rug pulled. So what's happened here? Over 6 billion extracted from crypto in just 30 minutes. Here's everything going on with OM. It all started when a wallet linked to Mantra sent 3.9 million OM to OKX. That caught attention fast, as it should, because the team controls 90% of the supply. So this had to have been somebody on the team, meaning they can crash the price anytime. So that was that was not step one. Okay, there were other things that showed that happened over the last few months. I mean, the trust was already broken. A month ago, Mantra did an airdrop, but right before launch, they blacklisted over 50% of the wallets and called them bots, but they gave no proof, and the community felt betrayed. People who did not have bot wallets got blacklisted, and they felt betrayed. More shady stuff started to appear. Market makers allegedly keeping the price high, quiet changes to tokenomics, airdrops getting delayed, founder inactive the last 24 hours. And with that, when that OM deposit hit OKX, panic started. People feared a dump, and they were right. If you were to look at that chart, what you see initially, if you could zoom in on this, is just like, uh-oh, something's wrong. Something's terribly wrong. There's a little bit of a sell-off here, and then it was just a cascade. And so, people feared a dump. They were right. Selling pressure kicked in fast. The rumors about OTC deals made it worse. Turns out OM may have sold tokens to private investors at massive discounts, some 50% off or more. That started a chain reaction. People sold, stop losses hit, leveraged positions. My goodness. Got liquidated. In just 1 hour, OM dropped over 90%, $7 to $5. And this was one of the largest market cap cryptos. I believe it was top 20. And we're talking about big winners in 2024. OM was massive. And many investors had no idea what was really happening behind the scenes. And then it gets even worse. OM's Telegram got deleted. The red flags were always there. 90% token supply held by the team, airdrop betrayal, hidden tokenomics changes, OTC deals behind closed doors. OM was number one in RWA, and it's still rugged. There's a lot that I could say about this. I fear that, listen, I think we're in the bear market in terms of, I don't think that Bitcoin's going to hit a new all-time high. Now, I could be wrong about that. In 2021, we really entered the bear market after Elon Musk went on SNL, April and May. After that, we went into the bear market, but we hit a new all-time high with Bitcoin. But the reason why I'm saying that is this kind of thing does not happen in bull markets. This is a very stereotypical bear market thing that happens, and I fear that it's a sign of other things to come. And so, like I said, we can hit new all-time highs. We can hit new all-time highs in Bitcoin and the total altcoin market cap. But I think what's going to happen is a lot of people are going to be communicating to you that, we're back on and that we're going to hit new all-time highs by the end of the year. And I'm just seeing a lot of flags, a lot of potential red flags, yellow flags that I really don't think that's going to happen. But there's going to be an amazing opportunity to reload. And this cycle we've already seen is very, very different from previous cycles. And so that doesn't mean that it's over until 2028. Okay. This is a huge red flag. And Altseason, we'll see what happens with Altseason. My hopes are not high, especially for Bitcoin's dominance to get under 40%. But I actually do have some hopes for a different kind of Altseason that I will make a shorter video talking about, and that's covered in this next tab. And so, okay, you've seen gold take center stage recently. I mean, you know, we're talking about a 50% gain over 12 months, which is massive for gold. I mean, we're talking about something with what, over a $20 trillion market cap, maybe 30 trillion right now. And here's the deal. We have gold. And if you think of gold as Bitcoin, think of miners, gold miners as altcoins. And I would make a case that we have ahead of us a massive, massive alt season with gold miners coming. And so this chart, oh my goodness, just prepare yourself for what could be coming with gold miners. And I'm just going to tell you right now, I've diverted a lot of my capital away from crypto into miners. And all right, let's look at the chart, and I want to give some thoughts on that. So, all right, just if you want to pause the video and look at it yourself, fine. But I mean, look at the X's here. Carolyn Mines, $3.10 to $57. That's 19X. A 10X for Mosquito Creek Gold, a 3X, a 5X, a 30X, 5X. There's some other ones, Cardaway. So this was, there's two different things here. We have the 79 to 80. If you remember, if you've ever looked at charts with gold, gold went parabolic in the late 70s, early 80s, and miners did insane returns. And then the mid 90s bull market, so gold had a, you know, it had a huge dumping after, I think it was 1982 when it peaked at $800. But then we saw some massive returns for gold miners. I mean, look at this first one here, 26,000% return, 358% return, 620%, 4,000%, 5,000%, 3,000, I don't know if we're going to see these kinds of returns, but I do believe that there are legitimate 10X and 50X opportunities for gold miners. You just need to know where to go and where to look. Now, personally for me, I have a couple of gold miners and I have some ETFs. I also have some silver miners, but I believe what's going to happen is that, again, you know, I'm of this mindset that we're going to enter a recession in 2025. First quarter is certainly going to have been negative. So one more negative quarter. By definition, that is a recession, even though they changed their minds when Biden was president. So after a recession is usually when silver does well. So my funds right now are largely focused on gold miners. And after we see some kind of recession, some kind of bottoming out, I'm going to divert a lot of my attention to silver and silver miners. But right now it's gold. I mean, massive, massive returns. Now, if you want to keep it simple, here's one that I think is poised for a breakout, the GDXJ Junior Gold Miners ETF, breaking out from a 12-year base. The bigger the base, the higher in space. It's time to position to TSXV Juniors market. Let's look at that chart zoomed in a little bit. So let me open that image in a new tab. And here we go. A 12-year base. So here's something I was going to say earlier, but I decided to pause for a second. When we think of crypto alt season, we tend to think of like a few weeks, a couple months, something like that. This is a longer play. This is a multi-year play. If you are interested in looking into this, this is a multi-year. We're not holding for a few weeks. We're holding for a couple years, but it's the kind of holding for something that's not going to go to zero. And for some of them, you'll even get dividends. And so the risk to reward is so much more favorable. You don't have to worry about the price going down on a specific day because these things are not going to zero. And they've been bottomed out for over a decade. And now what's coming next most likely is a significant move higher for these, but you just buy it and you hodl. You know, this is the kind of thing that I am in favor of DCAing and hodling right now. Not altcoins, which you know by and large are going to go to zero. And in that game of hot potato, it's not something that we're designed to handle because of the level of stress. So this is my alt season. This is the alt season that I'm preparing for. If we get a crypto alt season, great. But this is the game for me. This is the name of the game. It's something, again, I'd very strongly recommend looking into. So we have, again, the GDXJ Junior Gold Miners ETF. Why don't you look, if you want to do research on specific gold miners, look into, not financial advice, their holdings, the holdings in the GDXJ ETF and the GDX ETF, and see what options there are in there for different companies to invest in. Let's move on. Okay. So here's some hopium. I don't want to, I could very much be wrong about the bear market and everything. So how about some hopium from Decode here? Powerful parabolic moves in gold lead to powerful parabolic moves in Bitcoin. So we can zoom in on this chart here. You can see gold. So the top chart, is Bitcoin in the gold color, which is super annoying. But the top chart here is Bitcoin. The lower one is gold. And you can see what the argument is here. So big move up in gold. And then we see gold cool off for a little bit. And then we see Bitcoin rally, move up aggressively higher. That happened in 2017. In 2018 to 2020, big move up in gold. Big move up in gold. And then gold cooled off. And then we saw Bitcoin make a massive move up. And so here we are now. Will it be the same as in the past? We don't have much past history, but we see gold going absolutely crazy. And if you didn't know, I made a video talking about an indicator that I'm not going to name in this video that caused me to sell my gold, which it was a very, very close family member of mine was feeling some FOMO with gold, and so I sold my gold. And so is this a peak? If this is a peak and then we're going to see a chop, maybe that means that we're going to see now Bitcoin move much higher. It's just a data point to consider, not necessarily something that I buy. Are we even done with this big parabolic move up in gold? I mean, we'll see. But after a cooling off, yeah, eventually I would expect a significant move up in Bitcoin. It's just don't expect it tomorrow. Okay, so just my thoughts on that. All right, moving on. We have Octavio Tavi Costa, great last name. It's now official. The euro has broken out above a key historical resistance level. FX trends often take time to develop, but once they do, they tend to persist for years, FX being Forex. I expect this time to be no different, with the US dollar likely to weaken further against other currencies. People often like to complicate the drivers behind these moves, but at the core, this is about one simple thing. The US is facing an interest expense problem approaching 5% of GDP, something I've warned about for years and years, by far the largest of any other major economy. To address this imbalance, policymakers will ultimately be forced down a familiar path: loose monetary conditions combined with efforts to avoid meaningful fiscal tightening. Historically, this has been a very negative backdrop for the dollar and very positive backdrop for other assets like Bitcoin, potentially. So that chart, here's the chart, and a breakout in the euro versus the price of the US dollar. So we picture this from an inverse perspective. Will we be seeing over the next decade or more a weakening US dollar, which means you have to get out of the dollar, which means that you have to put it into assets that will at least retain their wealth in comparison to the dollar. I do not do Forex at all. I wouldn't even know the first step in doing Forex. Congratulations to you if you've got that down. I do not. But it's something to just keep in mind, that the dollar will most likely be weakening over this next decade. And so if you thought inflation, not necessarily this is talking about inflation, but if you thought that 2022 was bad in terms of this mindset of needing to get out of the dollar, what's coming up next is probably going to make that look like nothing, honestly. So we'll see. Worth keeping an eye on. And then last but not least, just can this please be a thing? I think this is a brilliant idea. Can we just do this? I still don't understand why no one is talking about the Social Security buyout idea seriously. Offer every new retiree and anyone under the age of 75 a $250K lump sum tax-free. If 10 million people, all we need is 10 million people to take it, it'll reduce the deficit by $5 trillion over a decade. Now, is that a wise thing for people who are of retirement age to do? I don't know. You know, that's kind of scary that they'd receive $250,000 and then not be able to collect Social Security. I'd be very nervous for them, but $5 trillion over a decade, that sounds good to me. So anyway, let's see where Bitcoin is right now. Bitcoin is at $85,786 as of the day that I'm making this video. Looks very bullish right now. Got to be a little cautious at the 200-day moving average like we talked about, and the upper Bollinger Band. The upper Bollinger Band is at 88,300 and change. That's going to be some resistance, whether that's short term or medium term or long term. We are overbought on stochastic. We're decent with regular RSI. Bitcoin has broken this downtrend. I wouldn't be surprised if there was a back test of the downtrend line. I don't know. Maybe Sunday was sufficient for the back test. But as of right now, at this exact moment in time, Bitcoin is looking pretty good. We'll see where we go from here. But that looks decent. Let's look at some other cryptos. We have Ethereum. Ethereum not looking too bad. I mean, in consideration, in context, you know, $1,680. A week ago, it was under, I think it got under $1,400. So, hey, let's take every little bit that we can get. XRP is at $217. Solana's at $134. Dogecoin, 16 cents. Tron's just been an absolute beast. It's like it's been saying, what dump are you talking about? Cardano, $6.65. Unis said Leo. Oh, that's a joke. I've no one no one has ever asked me about this cryptocurrency. Chainlink, $13.20. Avalanche, $20.49. Stellar XLM, $2.24. Sui, $2.33. We have a long way to go with altcoins, at least. We are not even we haven't even put in a higher high in altcoins. And so exciting times as of right now, relatively, but let's hold our horses and cross our fingers and get on our knees and pray for better times ahead. But let's break the downtrend first. All right. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed. I'd love some feedback on this content. If you are not a subscriber to this channel, be sure to hit the subscribe button and join the channel as a member. We have member-only live streams where we look at charts every Tuesday and Thursday around noon Eastern time, in the United States. And that is all I have for today. I hope you have a wonderful day, wonderful rest of your week. I will most certainly be seeing you in another video. Peace.